Today is a new day. Today is a day for you to begin creating a joyous, fulfilling life. Today is the day to begin to release all your limitations. Today is the day for you to learn the secrets of life.
We literally have the power to influence the very fields of this planet to sustain life in the world, sustain the health and the healing and the well-being of our bodies, and it's all about the magnetic fields of the earth.
It's all mind. You realize that. The only thing you're stuck in is not even history, it's just mind. It's a model you have of who you think you are and who you think everybody else is. That's all it is. That's exactly what's causing your suffering at this moment, is your own thought forms. And you're clinging to them and saying, this is real.
Whatever vibration you give off, whatever frequency you create or generate, determines utterly and absolutely whatever experience is reflected back to you from your reality. So whatever it is that you give off, whatever form you give yourself, however you define and identify yourself, is what is reflected back to you from your reality, so that you can decide whether you wish to retain that idea and that frequency or whether you wish to change it.
You create your realities, every bit of your realities, from birth to death, and everything in between.
Everything starts with a thought. I mean, everything that you do in your life, you have to have a thought before you initiate an action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, like any great leader in history understands that, the first thing you have to do is you have to decide, are you going to be defined by a vision of the future, or are you going to live by the memories of the past? So I'll give you an example. Most people wake up in the morning and your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a memory bank. So most people wake up in the morning and they start thinking about their problems, and those problems are connected to certain people and things at certain times and places. And the moment they start turning on those circuits, those memories are actually causing them to think in the past. Every single one of those memories has an emotion associated with them, and emotions are the end product of past experiences. So then the moment they recall the event, or they recall some problem in their life, they start feeling unhappy, they start feeling discouraged, they start feeling anxious. Now, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So we could say then, most people's entire state of being when they start their day is in the familiar past. Well, if you live in the familiar past, then it makes sense you're going to create the predictable future. So what happens for most people is they get stuck in their biology. So think about this. Your body is your unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between an experience in your life that creates an emotion and an emotion that you can create by thought alone. So if you're living by the same emotion every single day, and those emotions are influencing your thoughts, and you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become the means of thinking, you're thinking in the past. Your lens of the future is going to be colored by the past, so you can't see possibilities. So most people like to wait for crisis or disease or diagnosis before they wake up enough to see. Well, the challenge is that biology tends to be redundant. So if you keep thinking the same thoughts, and those thoughts begin to fire certain circuits in your brain, the nerve cells that fire together wire together, so all of a sudden you start getting hardwired, and those are the thoughts that you can think the easiest. At the same time, those thoughts produce chemicals called emotions, and the next thing you know, your body gets accustomed to living by the same emotions, and it could be guilt, it could be unhappiness, it could be pain, but at least it's familiar to you, at least you can predict it. So some people would rather cling to the familiar than take a chance on possibilities. So for most people then, they say, well, I don't really see how my thoughts have anything to do with my destiny. Well, that's because 95% of those thoughts are subconscious programs, right? So you're not even conscious that you think those thoughts. So the first step to change is starting to think about what you've been thinking about and change it. And then when you begin to observe those thoughts, you're no longer the program, you're the consciousness observing the program.
Just simply by being an observer of your thoughts.
Right. So most people, though, when you do that, when you decide to really take a look, it's like lighting a match in a dark place. So you feel uncomfortable. So it's easier to turn on your TV, it's easier to play with your cell phone, to distract yourself from those feelings. Well, When you understand that change really requires becoming uncomfortable to a certain degree, and that's normal, that you're leaving the known and you're stepping into the unknown, then it begs the question, what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? Because your attention on those thoughts begins to reorganize circuitry, remold the brain.
Our intention is everything. Nothing happens on this planet without it. Not one single thing has ever been accomplished without intention.
The world around us, our own science now is telling us there's a field of energy that underlies all physical reality, and it is known now by names that range from simply the field. Lynn McTaggart wrote a beautiful book entitled The Field about this quantum essence. Some people call it nature's mind. Some scientists call it the mind of God. Some call it the matrix. Some call it the divine matrix. In 1944, the father of quantum theory, Max Planck, identified this field, and he called it the matrix. That's where this term came from. And what we're now beginning to understand is that when we create the feelings of what we choose to experience in our lives, everything from conscious choices of the perfect relationship or abundance in our lives, or the healing in our bodies, or the healing in the bodies of our loved ones, that those feelings are creating the patterns of magnetic and electrical field in our hearts that are literally rearranging the stuff of this quantum soup, this quantum essence, allowing the pattern of what we have claimed in our hearts to become manifest in the world around us. So it's less about attracting from a scientific perspective and more about consciously creating the template within us, knowing that the stuff of the universe will congeal around that template in the world around us to simply mirror, reflect what we've claimed. In other words, a very simple way of looking at this, and we've all heard this before, is that we must become in our lives the very things that we choose to experience in our world. Now the science is giving us a very good reason to understand why that is. How many individuals would it take to claim this feeling in our hearts, to create the effect in our world? And the ideas about that are changing. Back in the 1970s, 1980s, through the Maharishi effect, the TM studies, it was very well documented that there is an effect between human consciousness and the world around us. That effect is known. But what could never be documented was precisely what was happening inside the body of the individual to create that effect. And it was during that time that a formula was created. And the formula simply stated, if we can create this effect with a certain number of people, the square root of 1% of a given population, then we will have the effect.
What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Reality itself is gorgeous. It is the plenum, the fullness of total joy. Wow-wee. And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, as a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It is a fireworks show to celebrate that existence is. Wow-wee.
See, this is the real secret of life. To be completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now.
We have to retrain our thinking and speaking into positive patterns if we want to change our lives. An affirmation opens the way. It is a beginning point of change. In essence, you are saying to your subconscious mind, I am taking responsibility. I am aware that there is something I can do to change.
Get me smarter. I didn't get any new raw ability. I didn't get better genetics. I simply upgraded one thing, my mindset. I began to believe different things about myself. At this point in my life, it was such a dark period, I started reading about the brain. And I wanted to understand what the nature of the mind was. And at the time, this is the late 90s when I first started reading about it, at the time, it was hotly debated as to whether or not you could learn new tricks, right? Can an old dog learn new tricks? And people were saying, nope, you're born with the number of neurons that you're born with, and that's it. Every time you have a beer, you're knocking 10,000 out, and it's just a steady decline until you slide into the grave. That's what people were talking about. And then there was another group of people that said, no, actually you're forming new neurons every day. There's this whole thing called brain plasticity. Your brain will actually rewire based on your own thoughts. Give it up to that. A man named Norman Deutsch wrote a book called The Brain That Heals Itself. Think about this organ for a second. The organ itself, by thinking, can actually change its physical structure. And if you've ever seen footage of the little neurons and axes moving and looking for each other and coming together and reconnecting and then getting wrapped in what's called myelin, it's a fatty tissue that allows for the electrical impulses to travel more rapidly and easier. And because the brain is desperate for caloric efficiency, it always does that which is easiest. The thing that becomes easiest is the thing you repeat. So if you repeat to yourself that you're no good, that you're worse than other people, that you'll never be able to do it, then that's going to be what becomes easy for you to think. That's how the brain works. That's why if you practice something, you get better at it. Now, most people practice thinking really lame stuff about themselves. They think negative stuff all day long. They focus on their failures, to focus on the things that they didn't do well. And so that's what hardwires. They focus on all the ways that it could go wrong. I always tell people, stop rehearsing the failure and stop rehearsing it under the guise of I just want to be ready. I want to have a backup plan. Well, the problem is what you're going through over and over and over is how things are going to go wrong. It is far better for you to put your energy into how to make sure that they go right. Then you're rehearsing over and over and over. You don't just think about the 1,000 ways that a building could fall. You think about structural integrity. You think about how do you build that in? Where do the posts have to be? That's the thing that you rewire over and over. So I have a dream. Okay, fantastic. I have one question. What skills does your dream require you to obtain? Now you know what to do. Now you know how to spend your time. So even though it was this hotly debated thing, I decided I was going to believe in brain plasticity. Why? Welcome to one of the most important rules in my life. I chose to believe it not because I knew it was true. I chose to believe it because it was empowering. And I only allow myself to do and believe about myself things that are empowering. I think humans have an extraordinarily hard time determining what is true. You're something like 5 times more likely to believe something negative about yourself than you are something true. Your brain's job is to keep you alive. It is not to keep you thriving. So it's going to protect you from danger. It's going to send warning signals all the time. It's going to tell you that you're smaller than you really are so that you don't take that risk. And look, I don't think people have a moral obligation to do something great. I don't even know that my way of life is the best for everyone. I think you have to be really careful who you take advice from. And in the beginning of that intro, they took a snippet from a longer thing, and I want to give you the longer thing now. I don't know that the way that I live my life is the right way to live. Maybe just trying to find peace, calm, and a stress-free life would be better for you. All I know is, if you want to be great, if you want to play on a world stage, I'm your man. And let me tell you what I've learned. You're going to pay an extraordinary price to become the person that you want to become. And it starts with having the dream, because you have to have clarity. You've got to know what you want. And I find that a lot of people fall down on this. They don't know what they want. They have some general sense. They'll say things like this: Tom, I know exactly what I want, man. I want to help people. Fantastic. In what way? How are you going to help them? How are you going to measure your success? There are so many ways to help people, and your job is to get really extraordinary at one of them.
How do you motivate yourself? One of the things that we must do is that we must be involved in working on achieving self-mastery. You must work on yourself continuously. Never be satisfied with yourself. Always know that as you invest the effort and time on you, that's the greatest ability that human beings have above animals. See, a dog can't be anything but a dog. Tree can't be anything but a tree. Human being, you've got unlimited potential. You can put effort on you, and by concentrating on you and developing you, you can transform your life wherever you are right now. So you want to work on yourself. You want to read books that inspire you and motivate you. You want to listen to tapes over and over and over again. And I suggest that you listen to tapes when you first get up in the morning. You want to control the spirit of your day. When you first wake up in the morning, your mind is operating at 10.5 wave cycles per second. That's when the subconscious mind is most impressionable. Whatever you hear in the first 20 minutes when you wake up, that will affect the spirit of your day. As you continue to work on yourself, you will begin to expand your vision of yourself. You'll begin to work towards self-mastery. And you will begin to see it reflect itself in all the dimensions of your life, your mental life, your physical life, your social life, in your relationships, your monetary life. Because I was willing to take a chance, and most people won't do that. Most of the people that you talk to try and bring them into the business, these are not risk takers. Most people have done all that they're ever going to do. They raise a family, they earn a living, and then they die. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning. And here's what I will share with you, that in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment, a lot of failure, a lot of pain, a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats. But in the process of doing that, you will discover some things about yourself that you don't know right now. What you will realize is that you have greatness within you. What you'll realize is that you're more powerful than you can ever begin to imagine. What you will realize is that you're greater than your circumstances, that you don't have to go through life being a victim.